Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we break down Rob Thomson's most recent media availability, and he had some interesting stuff to say about some serious topics, some not so serious topics, and everything in between. We'll break it down on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your very first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Camera's pointed a little high. Let me square that up a little bit for you. Wear my nice Eagles sweatshirt to rep the birds there if you're watching on YouTube because, the birds – they are in, of course, the NFC divisional round coming up tomorrow against the New York Giants. So go Eagles. Go ahead and check out all the work of our sister show. I guess we'll call it brother show considering it's Philadelphia and we're the city of brotherly love. But Locked On Eagles has a lot of great stuff over there previewing that game. So go ahead and check out all of their work. But, of course, thank you for checking out Locked On Phillies first and foremost. I know I'm your favorite. It's okay. We don't have to tell all the other Philadelphia podcasts or all the other Locked On podcasts. But anyway, let's talk about those Philadelphia Phillies. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a lot of breaking down of Rob Thomson's most recent media availability. Now, the unfortunate part about this for me, trying to bring this information to you, was I was not able to attend in person, and this wasn't one press conference that was televised or recorded anywhere. I couldn't find a full substantial recording of this press conference anywhere. So we're going to go through some tweets of people, other beat reporters who were able to be there, quoting some stuff that he said, going through some video clippings, because there were some short video clippings that I was able to find from some of the news outlets around town. But it's not like I had a video of, hey, this is the entire press conference, what Rob Thomson said, and I could watch it. So if there's something you end up running into that I missed, I'm not trying to withhold information from you or anything. I'm just running down through the topics. And we're going to sparse in some of the more important stuff with the fun off-topic stuff that he got into, because there were some funny answers in there as well. So let's go ahead and start. And shout out to some of the folks, Tim Kelly, Destiny Legardo, who I always use, both Phillies Nation folks that do great work for them. Using a lot of their tweets. Shout out Alex Coffey, who does work for the Inquirer for covering the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'm going through these folks' Twitter feeds. That's why you'll see me on my phone a little bit. So you can see if you're watching on YouTube, my phone's cracked as anything. You know what? It's just pure irony. I was without a phone case for, not to get too off topic, for 4 years. And sometimes I would break a phone, but no more often than your average person drops the phone and the screen breaks. I got this case, and within a day, the whole back completely shattered. Now, it holds it in, it holds the broken glass in and everything, so it's fine. I can use it. It's usable. But the irony of buying a case and immediately your phone breaks should be in Alanis Morissette song somewhere. Anyway, we're moving on. Let's get to Rob Thomson. So first, we're going to talk about some tweets from Tim Kelly's Twitter feed here about the skipper and some of the stuff he said. So we're going to go through. And, we'll start with Destiny Legardo, who had a bit of a breakdown of the things that Rob Thomson talked about. So starting from the top, here's the first bullet point. Every player except for Bryce Harper is coming to training camp healthy. That's awesome news, especially with how short the offseason has been for the Philadelphia Phillies. You look at baseball, and you don't really have the wrenching, hard contact injuries that you get in a sport like football, where he tore his ACL and MCL all in one go because his knee got buckled and that guy's gone for 8 months. You don't really see that in baseball. A lot of the stuff is deep tissue, it's non-contact, it's overuse and stuff like that, and rest helps a lot of that. A lot of surgeries are just probing cleanup surgeries. And even if you do tear something, unless it's one of the major ones like Tommy John, which is why Harper is not coming in healthy, you normally can get it together over the course of an off season, even though it's not the longest off season by any stretch of the imagination. But that turnaround changes when your team goes to the World Series and plays into November. So they've only had a couple months of rest and rehab and everything like that. And the fact that everyone's coming in healthy is awesome, awesome news. The first step to making it to the playoffs, having a 90-plus win season, and winning the World Series is having all of your best players available. And we know the Bryce Harper thing, it's unfortunate, but we knew it was coming. So great news all around, all things considered, from Rob Thomson when you talk about the injury front. Next, he talked a little bit more about Harper. Says he's doing light rehab work, could start ramping up at the end of March. Still the same timetable. That's neither good nor new. Let me remember how to talk. That's neither good news nor bad news. What that says to me is just like, hey, we haven't heard anything notable from him. It's like if you were to tell, as someone who's done rehab from a UCL injury on both arms multiple times, if I was to have something to say going over the course of rehab, that would be a bad thing. It's just a day-to-day progress. You know, if you've gone through physical therapy or any type of rehab or anything like that, that you're doing all kinds of dumb stuff, like you're moving your wrist in circles or you're like swaying your arm back and forth. It feels like really, really minor movements, and it's a very slow process. You shouldn't really, it's not like one day everything just feels better. So the fact that there's nothing to report, the only thing that snaps when you're doing stuff like that is in the bad way, and you have a setback because something pops or something feels weird or anything. Knock on wood, God forbid anything happens like that, but I don't think that should be the case because they're very much taking care of Bryce Harper. But yeah, so no news is good news. Same timetable was a great timetable. Bryce Harper seems like he's doing fine. This next one, very interesting, and we're going to get more into the pitching because I think the most interesting tidbit that Rob Thomson had was on the starting rotation, and we're going to discuss that in the next segment, a little bit more detail to jump into there. But here's another bullet point from Destiny Lagardo's tweet about Rob Thompson's media availability. Unless someone is, and in quotation marks here, completely dominant, Rob Thomson won't commit to a closer. That I find a little bit, I don't think worrying is the right word. Maybe it's the right way to approach it. But when I look at Gregory Soto, who's been an all-star closer, and for 2 years running, 30 saves last year for the Detroit Tigers, I see that guy and I say, simplify things. Put him in the closer role. Just lock him down. And then you can have a joint setup between Seranthony Dominguez and Jose Alvarado, depending on who the other team has coming up, handedness-wise with batters, or who hits well off of who. So you got two options for setup. Then Craig Kimbrell's maybe your seventh inning guy, pretty set in, or if you need to go to one of those other guys early. But seventh and eighth is going to be taken pretty much every night that there's a close game by Craig Kimbrell, and then Jose Alvarado or Seranthony Dominguez in that order. Not the last two, but Craig Kimbrell first in the lower leverage innings. And then that other pairing, the strike one, strike two, good luck pairing in the later innings. And then Soto goes as closer. But I also understand what Rob Thomson's saying. And he did it a little bit last year when Seranthony Dominguez got healthy. And I said it on 97.5 The Fanatic on the air, on the radio. And I think I said it here as well. I said he's not going to commit to a closer. Because if he does, he boxes himself in. And it feels like you're turning away from a guy. If you give Gregory Soto 3 opportunities to get saves, he blows 2 of the 3, and then you immediately flip to someone else. Then it's hard to go back to that guy because the confidence is shaken. So probably the best approach for me, I would have Soto there when everything's all said and done. But it seems like Rob Thomson, for mid-January, which is smart, is saying, hey, we got 4 guys with major closing experience. Alvarado, Dominguez, Kimbrell, who's been amazing as a closer over the course of his career. And even though I know he's down, like he's dropped off a little bit, he's regressed. And Soto, who's a young, fire-throwing guy who had 30 saves last year. Great stuff. Has closed at an elite level. So, yeah, I get when you have 4 guys that can do the job, you don't want to commit to just one. But it's not a bad thing. It's more of an embarrassment of riches than what we've seen maybe 3 years ago from the Phillies, where previous managers would say, I don't know if any of these guys can close, so I can't commit to somebody. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, I'm fine with it. I would like to see Soto in that role when the season begins, but that's a personal preference. And me judging on numbers and highlight film and not really seeing them throw in a Phillies jersey. So I'll defer to the coaching staff on that one. But that's the bullpen, and that's the closer role, and that was a very open option for that. Well, Rob Thomson said something else about the starting rotation that's very, very interesting to me, and it goes the opposite way of what the Philadelphia Phillies did this year. We'll discuss coming up next in the next segment of Locked On Phillies. Okay, I want to tell you about my friends over at Built Bar. Maybe you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories. Well, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to eat a lot healthier. The copy says a little healthier, a lot healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you don't really want to compromise taste, well, listen, Built Bar is exactly what you need. They're tasty, they're healthy, they're delicious. They're exquisite. I could come up with a million adjectives that describe really good taste, and they would all fit to Built Bar. And here's what makes them so good. First of all, 100% real chocolate on every single Built Bar. That's awesome. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They're also good. Listen to the numbers on these. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. That sounds like your protein bar that tastes like chalk, but no, Built Bar tastes awesome. And now you don't need to wait around to get them. This is my favorite new update with Built Bar. You don't have to order them online. Walk into your local Walmart, go to your Sam's Club. They've got them there in the Walmart pharmacy section. You can go ahead and grab them from there. Sam's Club, you can buy them in bulk. They'll have a 13-bar box there at Sam's Club with flavors like brownie batter and churro. Go ahead and grab them now. Eat, be healthy. You can thank me later for Built Bar helping you stay in shape heading into beach season in 2023. All right, let's get into a little bit of talk that's maybe a little bit more, statistical is not the word, but a little bit more analytical, a little bit more in between the lines. The closer thing was, but the other stuff that we talked about was a little bit lighter. This one's going to require a little bit more conversation. Rob Thomson also talked about in his press availability the potential of going with a 6-man rotation. That's interesting on like a billion fronts. I could probably do an entire podcast on this, but I tried to keep it to a segment for to avoid boring you with all just pitcher talk. But you know I'm pitcher crazy. I pitched the collegiate and semi-pro level. I love it. And the dynamic of a rotation says a lot about how a team's starting pitchers not only can perform, will perform, and what the manager perceives his starters to be, because that's important. Now, last year, it seemed like there were points where the Philadelphia Phillies almost went with a 4-man rotation of Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and then whoever else was available, whether that's Syndergaard, whether that's Bailey Falter, whether that's Zach Eflin, whether that's Christopher Sanchez coming up in a spot start. It was weird because you had the injury with Eflin, and then Syndergaard could only throw on like long rest because he's rehabbing his elbow, still coming back off Tommy John. He wasn't quite there. Christopher Sanchez was a minor league call-up, and Bailey Falter was all over the place. As far as some days he'd be really, really good, but then he's a young pitcher. And it was a strange rotation last year. Well, this year it seems pretty set down, right? Like Wheeler's your 1 or Nola's your 1. Flip it however you'd like. It'll probably end up being Zach Wheeler, I would imagine, but still. Wheeler, Nola at the top, or Nola, Wheeler at the top, however you'd like. Ranger Suarez at the 3. Taijuan Walker at the 4. All of those guys plus pitchers for the spot that they're in the rotation. Then you have a 5th spot. You have multiple guys who have started at the major league, or well, not started like intensely at the major league level, or I should say intensively. But Christopher Sanchez has major league experience. Cool. Bailey Falter has more major league experience. It was a really big part of your late season push last year. Cool. Either of those guys could be in that final spot. Andrew Painter, 19-year-old, dazzling, the best right-handed pitcher in the minor leagues, according to MLB Pipeline in their latest MLB minor league baseball player rankings, or prospect rankings, I should say. He could come up. He's young, but he's talented. You could do that. All of those guys vie for the 5th spot, along with Griff McGarry, who's a little bit more polished of a prospect, but not as talented as Andrew Painter. Mick Abel, again, a little bit older of a prospect. He's 21, not quite as talented as Andrew Painter. But you've got options. I would pick one. I'd say, hey, Bailey Falter, you have the ball. Hey, Christopher Sanchez, you have the ball. Hey, Andrew Painter, we're calling you up. Go get him, kid. You're the fifth guy. Welcome to the majors. But Rob Thomson said that there's let me see. He plans to use a 6-man rotation at points this season. Huh. Very, very interesting to me. Now, this goes to the closer role, what we were just talking about before I did that read for those delicious Built bars that are still on my mind. And I talked about, hey, if you have all these options, an embarrassment of riches, don't tie yourself into one option in the middle of January because you're handcuffing yourself. You're making it harder for you to make decisions further down the line as the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. So I get that. I understand it. But a 6-man rotation, I don't want to see Zach Wheeler throw every 6 days. I don't want to see Aaron Nola throw every 6 days. Frankly, I don't want to see Ranger Suarez throw every 6 days. Now, maybe that's old school mentality of me too much, considering that Zach Wheeler missed time with injury last year. Ranger Suarez missed time with injury last year. Zach Eflin, who was another one of your starters, missed time with injury last year. Noah Syndergaard was pitching on long rest because he was coming off of an injury. The only guy that was really healthy the whole way through was Aaron Nola. So, yeah, maybe it helps to have that extra day of rest, but also you got to have multiple guys you feel comfortable with. I've got to imagine if they go with a 6-man rotation at points, that's going to be reading the tea leaves. What that says to me is Bailey Falter's probably going to be your 5th starter on opening day. When you have the rotation set going in, it will be Wheeler or Nola or Wheeler, flip them. Suarez, Taijuan Walker, Bailey Falter. And Andrew Painter is going to start the season in the minor leagues. And then when Andrew Painter is ready to come up, it will not be a 1-for-1 swap. Andrew Painter comes up, Bailey Falter goes down, and you go ahead and throw Andrew Painter into the deep end, say sink or swim, kid. It'll be adding him to the rotation, going with a 6-man and saying, hey, we're going to start you on days you do well. If you do well, we will continue to keep the 6-man rotation. If we need to send you down, then we're not pulling a guy up who may be off schedule or whatever, because we'll have Bailey Falter there and he can just throw 5th and the other guys can slot back into 5-man rotation rest lengths. So that, to me, if I'm projecting out, if I'm trying to read the tea leaves a little bit, says something about, hey, we have a young pitcher that may come up later that's only 19 years old. We want to protect his arm, but he's super talented, and we think he's ready for this level. So when he comes up, we're going to add him to the rotation rather than giving him a spot in the rotation to protect him and use this kind of like a later season added rest period for our top pitchers, which, as I go through it, isn't crazy. Now, that's if they employ it that way. If their rotation is, hey, we're going with Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez both on opening day as part of the rotation added into that rotation that already exists, I'm like, Rob Thomson, what are you doing? But if that scenario I laid out with Andrew Painter is indeed the correct one, not only do I not hate it, I like it a lot. But a lot has to fall the right way for that scenario to be on the table. Just something interesting to keep your eye on as the Philadelphia Phillies get ready for the 2023 season, that we're going to see a bevy of starting pitchers for the Philadelphia Phillies because they have a bunch of fringe guys to try and figure out what that 5th man in the rotation spot is going to look like. So, interesting there, interesting in the closer role. Great. I mean, the position players are all locked in basically, so got to have some drama somewhere, and of course it's always with the arms. But good stuff from Rob Thomson. And as we wrap up, I want to talk about a couple wholesome answers from Rob Thompson's media availability as well. And it's an answer that the past 2 guys who wore the manager's hat here in Philadelphia, I could never see them giving an answer this endearing and relatable and just straight up downright funny as Rob Thomson gave to one of these questions. So we'll discuss coming up next as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about, that it's wholesome. It's not as funny as the other one, but it's just a nice little gesture. In his media session, Rob Thomson, well, he said that he had spoken to Gene Segura, who, of course, signed with the Marlins down there in Miami. We're going to see him in division, but no longer a member of the Phillies. So he spoke to him after he signed with the Marlins. Rob Thomson said he thanks Segura for his contributions to the Phillies. Told him he was happy that he landed a nice deal, all that good stuff. So it sounds like and this is not something to take for granted in sports. Now, I know Gene Segura was a huge part of the run, likable guy, good clubhouse guy, all of this stuff. So those guys always really get the King's treatment on the way out. But not every manager goes through the trouble to do that. Guy signed somewhere else, you shoot him a text, say, man, thank you. Or you give him a call and say, thanks for the time, see you. But this seems like it was a little bit more in-depth. Happy that you landed a nice deal. Talk about the money, glad, can't wait. You could tell that Rob Thomson made the effort to communicate with Gene Segura how much his work was appreciated here in Philadelphia, the situation surrounding him leaving, understanding Trey Turner coming in kind of changes everything here in Philadelphia, and it was just an unfortunate timing for Gene Segura to no longer be a member of this organization, but thanking him for the time here. And Rob Thompson's been here since Gene Segura's been here. He was a bench coach in previous years. So that was nice to see that he truly does care about these players. And I don't think we had any doubt. But another one that was asked. So I talked in a previous podcast about Rob Thomson being named the second most handsome manager in Major League Baseball. So he saw that. And you know what? If you had asked me, has Rob Thomson seen it? I would have said no. And if you had asked me if Rob Thomson had seen it, does he care? I would have said, hell no. But apparently wrong on both counts because someone asked him about it, and he said he had seen it. And not only that, he said when he saw it, he went into the kitchen to talk to his wife. And he said, honey, congratulations. Like, I'm the most, or I was just voted, or the study just said that I'm the second most handsome manager in baseball. And his wife, according to him, without missing a beat, looks up from the sink where she was doing dishes and goes, I guess that means everyone else must have tied for first, which is, oh my goodness, just an incredible line from Miss Thompson, an incredible line. And one that, and he chuckles about it when he tells the story. He's got that happy grin of the husband-wife shenanigans and everything like that. He's just such a likable, easy to root for manager. Like, could you imagine Joe Girardi telling a story like that? Even less so, Gabe Kapler telling a story like that. Like, they just didn't have it. They were so serious. There was the personal connection for them wasn't quite what it is with Thomson. And over the course of a long season, guys being able to just be like a relatable, funny, everyday guy plays with the players. It helps you respect your manager as a man who is like you, who's normal, also flawed. It humanizes the manager rather than being a boss. It makes them someone that you want to play for. And Rob Thomson, clearly, he has those types of personality traits in spades. So a fun little aside there from the Rob Thomson press conference as well. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Next episode, we're going to be breaking down Dave Dombrowski's most recent press availability. A little bit less lighthearted than that one. Not that he was mad or mean to anybody, but more business, as the president of baseball operations is expected to be. So we'll discuss his media availability in our next episode and break that all down just like we did with Rob Thomson stuff. Now, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Lindsey Crosby knows prospects top to bottom. He'll tell you about Andrew Painter, Griff McGarry, Mick Gable, the bevy of young arms that the Philadelphia Phillies have down there in the minor league system, and about prospects around baseball. Listen, no disrespect to our other podcast, because I'm a fan of all the work we do here at Locked On, but if there's someone who may go above and beyond everybody else, it's Lindsey Crosby and what he does on Locked On MLB Prospects. So check it out. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, just like we are here on Locked On Phillies. And thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, everything with Locked On Phillies. We're nearing 900 subscribers. The goal is 1,000 and beyond, but 1,000 is that big first mark. So I appreciate you continuing to get us closer to that. If you haven't subscribed yet, go to YouTube. What are you waiting for? It costs you nothing. It takes negative time. It's so easy to do, and it helps me out a bunch. So I really appreciate it all. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.